the people that you hike with are definitely worth any amount of first aid equipment that you can cart up the mountain. Ralph and Benjamin, thank you guys so much.
Welcome to Roughing It with Ruth, the channel where everything is a bit rough around the edges.
This video was actually requested by someone who watched my other video, When Things Go Wrong on a Hike. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link in the video description below. Or if you just want a really quick synopsis of what happened, I went hiking in the Drakensberg with two of my friends and I fell down some boulders and dislocated my shoulder. The question was, what things in your first aid kit were useful when you dislocated your shoulder? Was there anything that wasn't useful? And did you regret not having anything specific with you? There were things that we didn't use out of the first aid kit, but it's always like that with the first aid kit. Unless you actually experience that specific emergency, you're not going to use the stuff in it. And the hope is that you don't use any of the gear in your first aid kit because you don't really want to have an emergency when you're hiking, right? Okay, so first off, I've actually made a video about this little first aid kit that I made. This is the normal first aid kit that I take with me, but because we were going into a wilderness area, I felt like it was a good idea to take a bit more first aid equipment on a route that we knew could be difficult. Here's a comparison of the two. You have to kind of go through a bit of a process before you start grabbing stuff out of your first aid kit, and we did do that because you want to know what you should grab out of your first aid kit, if anything. At some point we decided, right, the shoulders popped back into place and I was still in pain. The pain was considerably less though when the shoulder had relocated itself. I knew that I had to take painkillers because I knew that I had to hike out, and it was extremely uneven terrain with boulder hopping and scrambling and like jumping down things, and I knew I was not going to be able to do that without painkillers. And in my first aid kit, I always take painkillers with me called Tramoset, a Schedule 5 drug. These are pretty hardcore painkillers. These were fantastic. I don't think I would have been able to hike out as effectively without these on board. I only really had one dose, which I took. But by that evening when it was getting dark, that one dose was definitely starting to run out. Ralph and Benjamin had pitched the tent. Ralph, in his first aid kit, had these painkillers, Genpain, paracetamol, ibuprofen, and codeine. It's only a Schedule 3, but they're pretty good painkillers. When I took these, that knocked me out completely. I just fell asleep almost instantly. For like the first half of the night, while these things were still effective, I had such a fantastic sleep that night. I don't think Ralph and Benjamin had a very good sleep because apparently I was snoring pretty spectacularly. Sorry, Ralph and Benjamin. Painkillers were winner. Okay, so then we're going to backtrack a little bit to just after I'd taken the Tramoset. We then did move my arm and use these little crepe bandages to make a sling, which Benjamin did really well. You get different sizes, ones that are a bit taller. And I think Benjamin used one of these from my first aid kit and one of these from Ralph's first aid kit. So we used two. And he did a really good job. My arm really didn't move at all. And was there anything that I kind of wish that we'd had? And the answer is actually no. These worked fantastically. One of the things, though, that you can use as a sling that is really effective as a sling, the triangular bandage. And you can't really see that super well. It's a triangle. In the future, I am going to add a triangular bandage to my first aid kit, but I didn't really miss it at the time. And then, interestingly, other than pain medication and the crepe bandages that we used to make the sling, there was only one other thing that we used, and it was out of my first aid kit. That tiny little brass safety pins, there are 4 of them here. Hope you can kind of see that. These were actually useful because we were using 2 crepe bandages to make the sling. It was useful for holding the crepe bandages to each other. And my down jacket, I couldn't make it fit over my arm. I obviously could not put my left arm through the sleeve of this. So we kind of zipped the jacket together at the bottom, but then we couldn't zip it any further because of my arm sitting across my body. We used one of these to just hold the jacket closed at the top. Was there anything else that we used? I think that was it. The thing that was by far, the most beneficial thing to have when I dislocated my shoulder was Ralph and Benjamin. It wouldn't have mattered if I had an entire ambulance worth of first aid gear with me. If I hadn't had Ralph and Benjamin with me, it wouldn't have made any difference at all. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one.